We are Frank and Daphne, a couple of not-so-young cycle tourists from Canada, and we're off on another adventure in Europe. This time we're setting out to explore the Via Claudia Augusta, a historic route through the Alps that follows an old Roman road that connects the River Danube and the Adriatic Sea. We're flying into Frankfurt, so we'll be riding a few hundred extra kilometres from the airport to get to where the Roman road begins. So join us as we make our way from Frankfurt in Germany to the city of Venice in Italy, following in the footsteps of the Romans. Welcome back to Torbole on the north shore of Lake Garda, where we're getting ready to resume our ride after a few days off the bikes and a little side trip by bus and train down to Verona and Florence to meet up with family. We had our bikes stored here and now we're getting all packed up again to climb back up to the San Giovanni Pass to get back to the Adige Valley to continue south on the Via Claudia Augusta towards the city of Verona and eventually on down to the River Po, where this branch of the Roman road ends in the town of Ostiglia. It just so happens that this part of Lake Garda is a mecca for mountain biking, and therefore it's well supplied with bike shuttles. So we're getting a little assistance up to the pass this morning, thus avoiding that push up the 12% grade that we had so much fun coming down several days ago. We're in the little community of Mori. We just took a taxi with our bicycles up the pass, up the giant steep hill from Lake Garda, and we are all set to ride, all loaded up. It feels good to be back on the bikes. We've had 5 days off the bikes, a day around Lake Garda, where we did bike, but not very much. And then an overnight in Verona via train, and then 2 nights in Florence, visiting with my brother and sister-in-law, David and Rose. And although those cities are absolutely stunning, they're very busy. And so good to be back on the bikes in the country. That's where we're happiest. What a beautiful path. We're so lucky because right now in Austria, Poland and part of Czechia, there are devastating floods with numerous lives lost. The weather is absolutely terrible there. So we're very fortunate to be where we are right now. As we pass through acres and acres of vineyards this morning, we're enjoying relaxed cycling on really good paths. Approaching the hamlet of Pilcante, we take a break to read about the important trading that took place along the Via Claudia Augusta. This sign had a nice map of the Roman roads as well. And you can see from this map that pretty soon we're going to be leaving the region of Trentino and entering Veneto. Just north of the community of Avio, we stopped at this great biker cafe for food and drinks. Good timing for us, as it was now after 12 and we were ready for refueling. Okay, back on the road. As we head on south, this section of the route has the cycle path sandwiched between the river and the autostrada. It is the main A22 north-south motorway that heads all the way north through to the Brenner Pass to Austria. The valley isn't very wide here, but it's going to get even narrower up ahead of us. Right now we're just by the town of Avio, and Lake Garda is behind this mountain range on our right. I think it's about 50 kilometers long. And the name of this big mountain that separates us from Lake Garda is Mount Baldo. We have now left Trentino behind and we have entered the region of Veneto. Yeah, we're definitely coming to the end of the mountains here. The topography is changing. It's interesting to watch the transition in the landscape. As we continued through the endless vineyards, although we could tell the mountains were tapering off, what one can't appreciate from the bikes is just how dramatic the river valley is becoming ahead of us, turning into a very narrow gorge. This gorge marks the end of the Valgarina Valley. The river in the gorge can be prone to flooding, so just like the Via Claudia Augusta did in its day, the main motorway and the cycle path start to head to higher ground at this point, climbing to a plateau well above the river. So we actually have our first real climb of the day. Well, I think it's the only real climb of the day. We haven't had to push up any mountains for a little while. We're getting spoiled. But at least we're rewarded with a view. We're here at this viewpoint on the cycleway, but from this point we still couldn't see the gorge ahead. And on the hill above us, overlooking this narrowing of the valley, is a very imposing fortress which was built by the Austrians to defend its border in the mid-1800s. It's adjacent to the small town of Rivoli Veronese, which we'll be making our way up to shortly. For most of today's ride so far, we've been following the same route as Eurovelo 7, the Sun route. But here in Rivoli Veronese, Eurovelo 7 peels off to the west to head towards Lake Garda, whereas we on the Via Claudia will soon make our way back downhill to rejoin the Adige River and its canal towards the town of Bussolengo and on to Verona. We have some olive trees in this area. This little route that we're on now has been a nice change of scenery through some woodland. And then the descending began. The fun would continue all the way back down to the Adige River level again, beyond the gorge, although without any good views of the gorge itself.
I was old, I was young, I was sitting in the sun, I was tired of the run, I was done. Life was great, life was hard, in a way an awful card. You can't win the losing hand. But the rain stopped falling and the line on the floor was crossed, and the pain I'd been feeling washed away to return another day. I was cold, I was bold, I had fragmented my soul into pieces contradicting themselves. Perhaps it is as it is, how the world is the mess, means that every heart and soul needs to be whole. And the road signs keep changing as the road stretches out ahead, and the mood keeps on changing. All I wanna do is lie down in bed.
Well, we've come down from the wooded slopes that you might be able to see behind me there. We would follow this section of the Ciclopista del Sole for about 12 kilometers to the town of Bussolengo, sticking to the banks of this impressive canal. So we really have left the mountains now. They have petered out. And it's 4:15. We're going to press on. We're still following this Adige Sole canal. The actual real Adige River is over there somewhere. According to the Via Claudia official website, this is an irrigation channel that was established during Mussolini's reign. We even got to ride across a couple of aqueducts along this section of the ride.
How are you? Are you blue? I can sense a sadness in you. Don't you worry, every storm passes on.
56 kilometers on our clocks at the moment. Nice easy riding along this canal still. Once we finish the hill section. I don't even know the name of this town, but we're sourcing out a grocery store to get some food.
Pravé italské sushi, real Italian sushi.
I don't even know what town this is. We don't know where we are, do we?
No.
It's 5 to 6 and we're somewhere within... How far are we from Verona?
About 50, 60 kilometers.
Okay, we're still a ways from Verona. So we'll see where we end up tonight, but we needed to stop and get some food. So when we stopped for groceries there at about 6, we decided, rather than pushing on into Verona, where there is meant to be a nice campground in the centre, we're just gonna take a little apartment not far from here, spend the night there, and then we can ride into Verona in the morning. A perfect little studio apartment in the hamlet of San Vito served us well for a comfy night, and a great pizza restaurant up the road rounded off the day nicely. This morning it's Friday and we are in a small, I guess you'd call it maybe a suburb of Verona. I think it's called Settimo, and this is the apartment where we stayed last night. It was really good. This morning we will complete the ride to Verona, which is about 14 kilometers, and head on towards the River Po. Off we go, Friday morning, just leaving our little apartment, going to head to Verona. So we're on the path along the canal approaching Verona, and I had to stop because this is the first time I've ever seen kiwis, the fruit, growing in Europe. We're still following the canal here, but the Adige River isn't far off to our left, and on the other side of the river, to the north of it that is, lies the Valpolicella wine area, probably most famous for its Amarone wine. So we're well into the suburbs of Verona now, heading towards the historical centre, we think. So as we enter Verona, we're finally crossing the actual Adige River. Most of the way down the valley from Lago di Garda, we've been following its subsidiary canal. This was a lovely way to be approaching the historic centre of Verona on our bikes. This fortified bridge has become the symbol of Verona. It's the Castel Vecchio Bridge, also known as the Ponte Scaligiero, named after the Scaliger dynasty that ruled the city in the Middle Ages. It connects the Castel Vecchio on the opposite side of the river with the left bank, and nowadays it's a pedestrian-only bridge. The original bridge was built in the mid-1300s, but was destroyed by the retreating Germans in April 1945. But it was completely rebuilt in a very similar style using red bricks and white marble. The castle itself nowadays houses a museum and art gallery. We continue into the old part of the city, enjoying the monuments and old buildings, and make our way to Piazza del Erbe, a bustling place full of historical interest. For many centuries, this would have been the centre of economic, social and religious life in Verona. In Roman times, it housed the Forum, and it's still a favourite meeting place for many locals and countless tourists, of course. It hosts a daily market in the middle. Just feet away from that hustle and bustle, we enjoyed a delicious lunch at a quiet street cafe. This nearby piazza is a much quieter place where you could sit and reflect on the writings of Dante, whose statue stands in the centre. Verona was named a UNESCO site in 2000, justifiably, as the city contains so many well-preserved elements representing its 2,000-year history, including from the Roman period. And of course, one of the best-known Roman structures is the wonderful amphitheatre, which is still used today for concert performances, fairs and operas. It has 44 tiers of marble seats. It's located in the huge Piazza Bray. And of course, the other must-see landmark is the famous Romeo and Juliet balcony, long associated with Shakespeare's tragic love story set here in Verona. We're heading out of Verona now. It hasn't been too bad. Well, some traffic to contend with, but not crazy. But here we're relying on commute. There isn't any cycle signage at the moment, or very little. We left the Adige River behind in Verona and gone to are all the perfect cycle paths with signage. Here we're in the real non-touristic Italy, making our way through Verona's fruit and vegetable suppliers and also a well-known wine-producing area around Somma Campagna and Costosa. The Via Claudia route that we're following here takes a wide sweep to the west once leaving Verona. This is a deviation from the original Roman road, which is believed to have followed the modern-day railway route straight south of Verona. Most cyclists probably finish their Via Claudia Augusta Cycle adventure in Verona, if not earlier at Lake Garda. And those would both be perfect places to end on a high note, and both have good transportation links for onward travel. But for those of us with plenty of time, why not see the Roman road to its official terminus at the River Po and take in a completely different landscape from what we've experienced so far. We made it to the town of Villafranca di Verona at about 3:30 in the afternoon, not knowing anything about the place prior to our arrival. We're having a well-deserved coffee. We had to navigate a nasty, busy section of highway on the way into this town. How you're in business. A bit of quick research at this point revealed very poor accommodation availability on the route ahead. So we soon concluded that there'd be nothing wrong with spending the night right here. And we found a lovely hotel right on the main street. This gave us time to explore the town, and it turned out to be a little gem of a place, full of history, but really nice and quiet. It turns out that this town is where the Treaty of Villafranca was signed between French Emperor Napoleon III and Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph in 1859, thus ending the Second Italian War of Independence. And just down the street is the house where much earlier Napoleon Bonaparte spent the night before one of his battles, the Battle of Arcole in 1796. Further down at the end of the street is a castle, the Scaligero Castle, built in the 12th to 13th century, which we had a chance to explore. To our surprise, this castle was the setting for one of the scenes in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. The smell of chicken roasting along the street gave us the idea for an easy dinner, which we had in our hotel room tonight. Ostiglia and the River Po are only about 50 kilometers from here now. So in the next episode, we'll share our triumphant, or maybe not so triumphant, completion of the Via Claudia Augusta. But our journey won't end there, as we'll also take you along the mighty River Po towards the fine city of Ferrara, as we head towards the Venetian lagoon and eventually to the city of Venice itself. Thank you for watching this far, and we'll see you again very soon.